Did you ever fancy an adventure that makes the average action movie look like a walk to the corner shop? Buckle up, because we're diving into the absolutely wild life of Peter Freuchen, Arctic explorer, writer, war hero, and possibly the only bloke who ever survived being buried alive in a blizzard by crafting a tool out of his own frozen poo. Yeah, you heard that right. Get the kettle on, because this one's a belter. Let's start with the basics. Born in Denmark in 1886, Peter Freuchen was never going to be the sort of guy content with a 9 to 5. Standing at a whopping 6'7" with a beard that looked like it belonged on a Norse god, he was built for larger-than-life adventures, and that's exactly what he went looking for when he joined the Arctic expedition in the early 1900s with fellow explorer Knud Rasmussen. The goal? To map out parts of Greenland and learn about indigenous Inuit people. Now, if you think Arctic exploration sounds like a dream adventure, let me stop you right there. It wasn't all sled dogs and stunning views, no. It was frostbite, starvation, and trying not to freeze solid while taking a nap. But Freuchen thrived in it. He didn't just survive, he embraced the brutal environment, learning from the Inuit how to hunt, navigate, and build shelter. He even married an Inuit woman named Navarana, who taught him even more about life in one of the harshest places on Earth. One of Freuchen's most famous brushes with death came during an expedition in 1926. Picture this, a blizzard rolls in, the temperatures plummet, and before Freuchen knows it, he's completely buried under several feet of snow and ice. For most people, that's where the story ends, but Freuchen was built different. Trapped in what was essentially a frozen tomb, he realised that his only chance of survival was to dig his way out. There was just one problem. The snow had hardened into ice, and he had no tools. So what does our man do? He improvises, using the only available material. Yes, his own frozen poo. Freuchen fashions a chisel and starts hacking away at the ice. It sounds absolutely bonkers, but desperate times call for desperate measures. After what must have been an excruciating effort, he finally breaks free and stumbles back to camp, frostbitten but alive. His toes had turned black and were completely dead. Now, if it were me, I would be taking it as a sign to call it a day and go home to seek medical attention. Not Freuchen. He took a pair of pliers, gritted his teeth and yanked his own toes off. That's a level of DIY I'm just not built for. But it wasn't all near-death experiences in yanking toes. Freuchen was a man of many talents. When he wasn't exploring the Arctic, he was writing best-selling books about his adventures, running a successful publishing company, and even dabbling in politics. During World War II, he joined the Danish resistance and used his connections to help Jews escape Nazi persecution. You'd think after all that he'd fancy a quiet retirement, but no. Freuchen kept on living life at full throttle. Oh, and did I mention his brief stint in Hollywood? Because of course the man who survived an Arctic burial and amputated his own toes ended up rubbing shoulders with movie stars. He worked as a consultant on Arctic-themed films and even appeared on the game show The $64,000 Question, where he wowed audiences with his tales of adventure. One of the most fascinating things about Freuchen was his respect for the Inuit people. At a time when many explorers viewed indigenous cultures as primitive, Freuchen recognised the incredible knowledge and resilience of the Inuit. He credited them for saving his life on multiple occasions and made sure to highlight their contributions in his writings. He wasn't just an adventurer, he was a bridge between cultures. Let's talk about another wild moment from his life, because one just isn't enough for this bloke. During an expedition, Freuchen and his team found themselves low on food. The only thing they had was a dead polar bear they'd managed to take down. But here's the problem. Polar bear meat can be toxic because of its high vitamin A content. Eat too much and you're in for a world of hurt. Desperate and starving, Freuchen decided to risk it. He boiled the meat for hours, hoping to reduce the toxicity, and then served it up. Apparently, it tasted awful, but it kept them alive. Just another day in the life of Peter Freuchen, really. Despite his larger-than-life persona, Freuchen wasn't immune to tragedy. His beloved wife Navarana passed away, a loss that devastated him. But even in grief, he found a way to honour her memory, naming one of his books after her and continuing to share the lessons she'd taught him. In his later years, Freuchen moved back to Denmark, where he continued writing and sharing his stories. He remarried a fashion illustrator named Dagmar Kohn, proving that even Arctic explorers can find love in unexpected places. He lived a life that defied the ordinary, right up until his death in 1957. Peter Freuchen, a man who refused to let fear dictate his life, whether he was facing down a blizzard, standing up to Nazis, or just trying not to gag on polar bear stew. Freuchen met every challenge head-on with a mix of bravery, ingenuity, and sheer stubbornness. Would I survive in the Arctic like Freuchen did? Not a chance. I get cold just walking to the car in winter, but his story reminds us that sometimes the only way out is through, even if that means chiseling your way to freedom with a frozen turd. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you have thought to utilise your own feces to escape an ice coffin? Or would you tap out at the first sign of frostbite? Personally, I'll stick to my warm brew and cosy jumper. Thanks very much. See you in the next one.